Everybody, welcome back to the Josh Gerben Show. Today we're talking with Mike Montali. Mike started Harbor Compliance 12 years ago, took the business from 0 to 40,000 clients. We're going to get into the marketing strategies that got the business to that point. We're also going to talk about a really unique tool they developed to help with the Corporate Transparency Act. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Welcome to the Josh Gerben Show, because law school didn't teach business.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, great to see you, Josh.
Absolutely. So, Mike, you're an unusual guest on the podcast because you're not a lawyer, and we have a lot of lawyers on the show. But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is that you and I have known each other for a long period of time, and we actually both started our businesses around the same time. And there was a lot of parallels in sort of how they got off the ground and how they started to grow. And I think a lot of your knowledge in how you grew a business from literally nothing into something pretty big would be really, really helpful to lawyers that are interested in business development ideas. And then also you have some really cool things for lawyers, especially as it relates to the Corporate Transparency Act, which we'll get into. So first question.
Absolutely. And thanks for leading with the fact that I'm not a lawyer. For some reason, everybody always thinks I am. Years later, they make a comment about it. I have to correct them. But
you just look like one, I guess. That's the.
Yeah, we certainly work with a lot of lawyers. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah. So tell us. So your business is Harbor Compliance. Why don't you start by just telling the audience, what does Harbor Compliance do?
Absolutely. Yeah, we help businesses and nonprofits with all the multi-state compliance. So all the Secretary of State work from formation to annual reports, qualification to do business, full life cycle of the business entities and registered agent service, and a lot of regulated industries as well, helping companies with business licensing and all the related areas that are necessary for them to be able to run their business successfully and not have to worry about the paperwork.
Absolutely. And I know just because we're actually a user of your services in some capacity, that you work through a lot of law firms too, right? So it's not just direct to the business, but you might actually assist lawyers with some of these things. Tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Yeah, we do. And, it's interesting because early on in the company, I think we were perceived as a competitor, and we did quite a lot of business formations. And it took us a little bit of time to figure out how to navigate that. And once we did, we really realized that we were more of a service company supporting law firms as opposed to a company competing with them or trying to take their business. I think it's interesting because we found that even though there's some overlap, perhaps it's a small sliver of overlap, but the broader point is that there's opportunity to refer business to one another and grow each other's businesses. So I think we learned from that, and we've always tried to find, partnerships where we can view it from an angle of collaboration as opposed to competition.
Gotcha. So where did you get the idea for this business? Like, where did it come from?
Well, I was actually working at a law firm. I was a consultant, and I was in the healthcare practice, but got exposed to some of the corporate practice and saw that there was a need, and really from a technology perspective, in supporting companies in what is a legacy service industry. And there's some incumbent providers in the industry that have been around for well over 100 years, really approaching this work from a perspective of service. And my partner, who I met, had a background in technology, and so we paired together our experience and brought technology to this industry that we really saw was much needed.
And so when you first open your doors and you have this platform where people can come in and it can help them get incorporated, it can help with licensing and applications and all the things you mentioned at the top of the show. Where did you start to get clients from? Like, how did that even happen? Like, do you remember your first client?
I do, and we were really stupid back in the day.
We were all
another way to say it. I mean, we were like jumping for joy. We were celebrating the fact that we made our first sale. It was like $79.
Sure.
And it's like, wow, we're going to be able to maybe keep the lights on for like a couple more days. And that I think that first sale came about 2 or 3 months in, and then it was another couple weeks before we got our next sale. So we really made some, I'd say, bad decisions early on in how we got customers. A lot of focus in local face-to-face networking. We tried direct mail. We tried a lot of things. A lot of things didn't work. A lot of our instincts were wrong. And I think what we did well, though, was that we learned from those experiments, and we just iterated, adjusted, and we kept on going, and we did that really rapidly. So we didn't stay stuck for a long time, and pretty quickly we realized that those methods of acquiring customers that I just mentioned were too time consuming, too expensive, and when they were successful, they only would bring in 1 or 2 customers. And we really needed to find something that was scalable. And so we really kind of looked at what other options there were out there to do that.
And where did you land then?
Yeah, we eventually got into marketing, and I know you and I have talked, over the years at length about this stuff, but we saw content marketing as the real path to build our business. Our industry is information rich in that every state has their own requirements for businesses. Each business structure, whether it's an LLC or a corporation or a nonprofit partnership, et cetera, they have their own requirements in every state. And then every process you need to do, whether it's forming a business or expanding to another state, has its own, processes and forms you have to file, fees. So we set out to really educate and inform the market, build a really what later became a database of all those requirements, all that data, and we published it, and we wrote information guides that we published on our website that we gave away for free. A lot of people said, "Well, you're crazy. You're just giving away all the information." And while that was true, it was a massive marketing benefit, and we started to see visitors, flow to our website in the thousands and tens of thousands, and that really became the marketing engine for the business early on, and still to this day.
So, we're talking obviously about SEO and the power of, all the inquiries and searches that people are doing online and the traffic that can drive versus you going to a conference or an event and meeting a couple people, maybe getting a couple clients, and really being able to scale a business. And I think that's fascinating because obviously we've played the SEO game ourselves over the years, and I would say not to the success that you've been able to do it. I mean, the amount of content on your site is impressive, and the amount of the surface area you cover anymore is extremely impressive. So from a marketing perspective, do you still look at it as a mix at all from anything that you're doing outside of the digital marketing, or is it mostly just that? Is it just the digital marketing side of it?
I think that the other methods, some of which are digital, whether it's PPC or it's affiliate marketing or it's social media marketing or any of the other online digital channels, and the offline channels as well, I think they feed into one another. And one of the things that we did was we needed to, especially because we had just created our website. Our website was brand new. It didn't have any age in the eyes of the search engines like Google. It didn't have any domain authority. So we needed to build that authority. And so we did that not only just by publishing the content, but then getting reputable sources, publications, .org, .gov in many instances, and .edu websites to then link to that. And so I mean, that was a process of sharing the content, of networking with these outlets, in a lot of cases through in-person events, like some of the things you mentioned with conferences, et cetera, and speaking engagements, so that people knew who we were. They knew that content existed. and they believe the value to share it to their audiences.
That's amazing. And that it just shows, I got to highlight that because, a lot of times when you talk to, especially a law firm owner talks to an SEO agency or whatever, they're getting one, okay, let's create this content or let's do a little bit of reach out here or there. But there's so much more you can be doing from a person to person relationship perspective that might actually build links to your site. And like you say, that authority, and that's an amazing idea of kind of getting that information there and then going out and networking with the people to help amplify the fact that it's there and link to it. That's a great strategy. And, one thing I was wondering too, Mike, just to step back for a second is, part of the hardest thing I have found in creating content, especially around legal topics, because they're very technical and you have to get things right for it to be valuable. Like, how did you find writers? Like, did you find writers or did you do it in-house, or how did you end up creating a lot of this content?
Yeah. Well, we saw in the industry that people were writing general guides about how to form an LLC or how to file an annual report for your business or what an annual report is. But that ultimately that information really wasn't useful because it wasn't tailored to a specific state or a specific type of entity. Basically a situation that somebody would be in where they didn't necessarily get a whole lot of value out of just the general 101. They needed to actually complete a task. And so we created the content that actually did that, which led to having thousands of these informational guides that were very detailed and step-by-step. Early, and still to this day, we write them in-house. We view this as so core to our business that we just didn't see that it made sense to outsource it. I think that probably could be an avenue that somebody could take, but in our case, we wanted to have a lot of control over the quality. And the way that we went about writing these guides was to be as useful and simple English language as we could. We didn't want to make things more complicated. We wanted to simplify them for clients. And so we have, a couple of our core values as a company are precision and clarity, in that the work has to be very detail oriented. It has to be right. But we hold that intention with making it simple for our clients or the users or the readers. And when you're able to pull those things off, a lot of the masses are able to benefit from the information. But we also had attorneys that reached out to us and said, I really like your guys. They're right. They're accurate. They're very useful. So we were able to have very broad appeal in our content.
That's amazing. So these writers, do you have them full time on staff, or is it how do you have a staff of writers, or how do you do that?
Well, these writers were me and my partner in the early. Let's be clear, in the early days.
Sure, it's great to know. Yeah,
As we would do everything, we would write the content, we do the research, write the content. We would pick up the phone when it would ring, and sell the services. We deliver the services, the whole thing. But we have really a few teams. We have a reference data team, and these are individuals who are constantly looking at the statutes. They're looking at the state websites. They're combing through the forms and gathering all the data, updating our database, and keeping that fresh. We have, I think, close to 5 or 6 people on that team. Our entire service team, these are people that are actually completing filings. They are in everyday constant communication with the agencies doing this work. And so when they see that something's changed, we're able to take that feedback and put it back into updating our database. And then we have a marketing team who is out there creating new content, whether it's writing or it's creating videos or it's webinars, speaking engagements, writing white papers, digital guides of any sort of format you could possibly imagine. We have several different functions that are involved. It kind of permeates through a lot of the departments of the company.
Right. So now are you still writing, or do you have people that do that now?
I myself, you're asking about?
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah.
Here and there, absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, I do today probably more review than
Okay.
actual sitting down and writing a first draft.
Right.
But I like to be involved in the conceptual stage of new content that we're creating, and I like to kind of have some editorial review over content. Not all of it. There's just no way. But certain pieces, particularly in new areas that might be a little bit more different from what we've done in the past.
Right. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying today's episode of The Josh Gerben Show. This show is brought to you by none other than Gerben IP. Gerben IP is a trademark, copyright, and patent firm based out of Washington, D.C. We've been in business for more than 16 years and work with clients from all over the United States and the world. If you are a U.S.-based attorney, please know that we do accept referrals from attorneys and pay a 20% referral fee for the lifetime of a client that you refer to us. We work really well with firms that don't do IP work, but need to plug in someone that does for their clients, especially someone that's not going to do the other work that you're already doing. So if you need somebody to refer your IP work to, please feel free to reach out to me. My email address is jgerben@gerbenlawfirm.com. Drop me a note. I'll be happy to schedule an appointment with you, talk about our referral program, talk about what we can do for your clients. Thanks again so much for listening. Now back to the show. No, and I think that's fascinating because, I mean, still to this day, if we're going to publish content, I mean, I try not to do the first draft myself again, but there's a lot of technical stuff that, obviously if I want it to be on our website and I want it to have our seal of approval, I'm not letting it go out without my read and my comments and my adjustments. And so, no, I think it's a really hard thing. And the reason I keep I'm kind of asking these questions because I think a lot of lawyers struggle with the idea of how they create content when you're busy, right? I mean, you're running a business and you have a million other things that you're doing, everything from, HR to operations to whatever else you have to worry about that day. And now you're also writing content, right? And so I think that just shows, the dexterity you need as a business owner and how, even at an advanced stage of a company, you still would be involved in, like what you just said, is a really core function of your company, which is that content you're putting out. So I think it's super interesting.
Yeah, and I can see for attorneys that everything they put out is going to have, their reputation, their brand behind it. So it's going to be extremely important that the quality is right. And I look at decisions like that through the lens of, well, what's core and what is not core to the business, and doing in-house and the core functions, and then outsourcing or delegating, just in very broad general terms, the rest.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Well, you mentioned as areas of law change, which happens quite frequently, and one of the biggest changes so far in 2024 has been this Corporate Transparency Act, which hit in January, and a lot of lawyers, especially a lot of corporate lawyers, are very familiar that here's something we've got. What have you guys done around? I mean, I'm sure that's been a business opportunity at some point for you, right?
It has. It's been really the talk of the industry for really over a year at this point. We saw it as an opportunity. We saw it coming. We were monitoring the regulations. There were a lot of people that were very skeptical of whether the regulations would ultimately be passed, whether they would be, really like challenged by courts, whether they would be enforced. So many questions, and a lot of people still have some of those questions. But we needed to be prepared because we saw it as an opportunity, as a natural extension of our technology, where we already are storing a lot of this data for our customers today. A lot of the ownership information, the basic demographic information about companies. And as a new regulation like this comes out, that's going to affect a lot of businesses and a lot of our customers, we want to be able to provide the solution to them. So we made a decision last year that we were going to build a product for the Corporate Transparency Act to help businesses with the BOI reporting. And it was a real benefit to us because we were ahead of the curve with a lot of people that were more skeptical. Companies, a couple of the bigger companies in the industry took some time to come around to this being, I guess, an opportunity that they need to focus on. So it got our foot in the door with a lot of firms and a lot of companies that before we might not have been speaking to.
Gotcha. So you've got a software tool that helps people make the filings they need to be compliant. Do you have a lot of law firms that are using this, to help their clients, or who's been using the tool so far?
We do. Yeah. And going back to the sort of like the partnership and the marketing, there's a lot of opportunities to partner with firms, which we've done just from information, sharing, whether it's articles or webinars, and sort of co-opt our efforts and share our client bases, if you will. And from a service and a technology perspective, a lot of the law firms are our customers, because it's really, in our view, a technology solution paired with some sort of legal advice, and that customers, businesses, they're going to need to know whether they have to file or whether they're exempt, and then who the individuals are, whether they're considered a beneficial owner, and other questions that they may need answers to. Those are legal questions that our law firm partners are best suited to answer. And where we shine is collecting the information securely through secure technology, storing it, and then once it's complete, we have all the information, transmitting the filing to FinCEN and getting that approved. And then the process is not done there. Storing the data into the future so that if an address changes or any of the information for a company changes, they don't have to go back in and fill out all the information from scratch again, but instead have it in a technology that has been storing it securely. They can make just the one change and move on with their day.
No, that's great. And I'm sure, it probably saves time and money. If a law firm's using it for their clients, I'm sure it saves billable time, or, paralegals running and making a filing, as opposed to just, they got a system, they can send it in and it's all linked up to the appropriate agencies. So that sounds like a pretty cool opportunity there.
It absolutely is. And then we're seeing there are a number of states who are enacting their own, version of or form of a Corporate Transparency Act. So it's a federal regulation affecting approximately 33 million businesses, and then you have a handful of states that are also getting involved as well. Yeah,
that's it's funny. You hear people hate regulations, but I'm sure in your line of work you're happy when they layer a few on there.
Well, there's really only one constant, and that the regulations are going to increase. They're not going to decrease.
Right.
And so, we're there to make it easy for people and just add on that one, additional set of questions to our information form that we may not have a driver's license scan or a passport or whatever the other pieces of information are. But we're able just to ask our clients just for that, and everything else they already have in the software.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I know, there's a lot of lawyers, corporate lawyers I know that have been scrambling this year to educate clients on what they're going to need to do and how to comply. And it's like anything else. If you have a tool that kind of helps walk you through it and get it done, that hopefully it ends up making it a lot less painful than it might be otherwise. So I think that's so cool. And that idea that you can pivot a business, and I mean, a lot of lawyers have had to pivot this year and being able to advise clients around this new regulation. But the idea that you're about 16 years in at this point, or how old's the business?
Feels like we're 16 or many more than that, but it's about 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're still 12 years in, and all of a sudden something big changes and you're able to, that's like you said, you have some older competitors that were not jumping at it as quick. And I think sometimes younger companies, sometimes more nimble companies, that's, it's a huge growth opportunity. And same thing for law firms. As a small firm, we can change on a dime for our client if we have to. Whereas I see larger firms that just can't, you can't turn the ship quickly. And so, the more nimble you are, sometimes the advantage you have.
And there were some new entrants into the industry. They saw opportunistically this regulation. They formed a business to help. And I think there were firms that see that as risky. If they're a new company, they're not proven, they've never done actual filings yet, they don't have revenue or customers. And so, we got feedback from people that we were in a sweet spot in that, we were established, we were proven, we've been, we've processed hundreds and hundreds of thousands of filings over the years. And this is just, from a technology perspective, not a whole lot different. So
that's amazing. I mean, so now that I guess, I have a couple of final questions. One, there's been, you talk a lot about your business, sort of the backbone of the marketing efforts being what you've done on search and through all the content you put out there. There's been a lot of changes in Google the last 12 months, especially. Have you seen any impact from that on your end as far as the traffic you've got to your site?
Yeah, the SEO game has really changed, and really content marketing in general has changed. You have new social media platforms that people can use to advertise on, or they can create authoritative content on. We see small law firms using YouTube, or small accounting firms, and even some larger ones advertising on some of these places and creating video and creating content. I think it's become a lot more common to see people, and and then also using influencers to market. There's sponsored posts. I mean, there's so many new things that were not around when we got started, and it's constantly evolving, and it requires that we evolve with it.
So are you dancing on TikTok now?
I you don't want to see that, Josh. I'll spare the world.
I keep threatening here that I'm going to have to start doing that at some point. But are you doing? And I've noticed that, right? As a law firm, we used to be really, really dominant in the trademark world when it comes to search. We definitely have lost that dominance. There's been a lot of change in how Google looks at, and we're a law firm, so it's a different thing than what you are. But we have noticed it's become it's a hugely different monster than it was even 5 years ago. Are you, and I look at some of these other opportunities like advertising on YouTube or some of these other social media things like you're talking about, and I find that it is still, it's not nearly as effective as the good old school, like someone searching for Google for a solution, finding something and coming to your website. Are you dabbling in that stuff? Have you tried any of it? Have you found anything that's particularly successful at this point?
We've expanded into some of these other areas. I would agree that I don't think that any of them are as effective as somebody is sitting down on a computer and they're searching for information on how to do a process because they have an immediate need. And whether that's a compliance solution like one we offer or a legal service, I think that's going to still be the most qualified searcher or potential customer rather than somebody who is sort of browsing more recreational or entertainment content. One thing that we've done, and we didn't necessarily see a decrease, but as much a plateau of at a certain point, we really reached as high as we were going to get without, a lot of diminishing returns from a content perspective.
Sure.
And we expanded to, I alluded to this earlier, partnerships and finding other firms where, they have a capability that we might not have, and we have something that they might not have, to be able to, leverage their audience, their membership, their clients, and vice versa. And we've launched some pretty innovative partnerships around that with firms. And as a technology company, we also have the ability to integrate with other technologies, and that's just sort of built into the type of business that we have. So I think it's finding some of those areas that are going to be useful to generate business in their own right, and they're also going to feed into the content or some of the other strategies that you have, and help augment those.
That's very interesting. And just to pry slightly on those partnerships. So, I mean, I would imagine that given that you now have a very significant client base, that gives you some negotiating power when you're going in to say to someone, hey, I could probably bring you a lot of business, but maybe you can bring us a lot of business. Is that, so it's sort of having that advanced stage that partnership discussions, more applicable, do you think, or would that work?
I think that helps. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're at a volume business. We have about 40,000 clients. So that's a large and diverse customer base that we can walk into those conversations and offer to the right partner. We're very selective because we need to make sure that if we're putting a partner in front of our clients, it's going to be the best experience they can have. Otherwise, it's going to deteriorate our brand and harm, our future efforts.
Sure. No, that's always what's scary about any kind of partnership, right? Yeah. Is it there's certain things that become out of your control and you're putting a lot of trust in other people. But I do, and we see it in the law firm side, if there's a case that we're not good at, good for, and we can refer it out to another lawyer, like we want to help the client find a solution, but then a lot of what that other lawyer does reflects on us because we've recommended that person. Right. And so I think any partnerships are challenging in business, but it's interesting to hear that that's a place you've gone to, knowing that the online world's become so saturated that you've kind of butted up against what you feel is almost a roof on it. So it's and I feel the same way. I mean, I feel like we have we're trying to adjust some things from an SEO perspective, but at the same time, the competition now. I started 16 years ago, and the amount of lawyers out there hawking services online, it's a totally different world. I mean, there just wasn't a lot of competition in 2008. And now, every law firm is trying to acquire clients that way, it feels like. So,
and I think you're also competing with everybody who is creating content, who is vying for the eyeballs of your target audience, whether it's entertainment and totally unrelated to what you do, it's still vying for their attention. And therefore it's, how do you cut through all the noise and get through to people?
No, I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, Mike, I want to respect your time. I'll be honest with you. I think this marketing conversation, it's funny. A lot of lawyers, if you talk to other lawyers about marketing, we all kind of talk the same way. I think breaking in with someone that's a non-lawyer, but familiar enough with the industry, I really hope this conversation is going to be helpful to people, because I think it does show, the power of a digital marketing campaign, also the challenges that, exist in today's world. But you all have done a fantastic job, and I've just loved watching your business grow, and it's definitely been fascinating to watch just sort of the skyrocket nature of how you build a business. And I mean, like you said, 0 clients, first one in is $79. You've now got 40,000 clients. I mean, that in 12 years, there's not many companies that can say that. So
and we're
certainly.
We realize we're not able to do a lot of that work for $79 either. So it's learn that lesson as well. But no, and I think Josh, your firm is great case study for really, I think, any business, but it's, lawyers as well, in terms of how to really build a niche and how to own that space and be authoritative thought leader. And put out content. I've always had a lot of admiration for what you've built. I think it's been great watching the firm grow as well.
I definitely, we'll put in the show notes links to Harbor Compliance and the Corporate Transparency Act tool they have. I know lawyers that work with Mike's company, and it's always been a good experience. Everything from just a registered agent to helping with corporate filings to now the Corporate Transparency Act. They have a lot of great technology solutions that can make a lawyer's life easier. So I recommend you check them out. And Mike, thanks again for jumping on today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody can reach out to me anytime. And like I said, we're open to partner with firms where there's a good fit, good synergy. So look forward to speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Mike.
Thanks, Josh. I'll see you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us today. Before you take off, just a few things. Today's episode was sponsored by Gerben IP. Gerben IP is my law firm. We're a trademark law firm that assists other lawyers in providing trademark services to their clients. If you have a client that has a trademark need, feel free to reach out to us. We do offer referral fees. I'm happy to talk to you about any matter. My email address is jgerben@gerbenlawfirm.com. Also, please remember to leave a rating or review wherever you're listening or watching to this show. It helps other people find the show. So if you liked it, please just click a button or two and give us some love. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you next time.